About 10 years ago, I moved in with my grandparents. They were around 80 years old at the time. They lived in the city near the college I was attending. It made the commute much better for me. We shared a 2-bedroom apartment. In the back was the kitchen, back entrance, and my grandparents' bedroom. And in the front was the living room with the patio and my room. I am and always was a night owl. I take a lot after my grandma, who always goes to bed at around midnight. Sometimes, when she couldn't fall asleep, she would walk slowly across the corridor, open the lamp, sit in her rocking chair, and do some crosswords for a while. So she would always leave a night light on in the corridor. One time, I went to bed early, at about 9. I was watching a movie in bed with the door closed when I heard my grandma get up from her rocking chair and close the lights. I then saw the shadows of her steps going towards their bedroom. Then silence. About an hour later, I hear steps coming from their bedroom. Then, slowly, the shadows crossed my bedroom door, only to end in the middle of the living room. I waited for the light to come on, but nothing. I paused my movie, listened closely for any kind of sound, only to hear my grandpa snoring like there's no tomorrow. I figured my grandma couldn't take it anymore and went sleeping on the couch. I finished my movie and went to sleep. The next morning, I asked my grandma how she slept considering she was on the couch. She looked at me, puzzled, saying she didn't sleep on the couch. She's 80 years old with a bad back. What could I possibly be talking about? I told her about the steps I heard and saw, how it must have been her. She then laughed. Oh, lily pie, that wasn't me, it was Grandma Pearl. Grandma Pearl was her mother. I knew her for the first 10 years of my life before her death in 2001. I don't get scared easily. The scary movies never really did it for me. Sometimes they felt like a comedy rather than a scary movie. I found them funny, not scary. Maybe that was my first mistake. One day, I was dropped off from school, and I always take a quick look around because I have had people try to come into my apartment building for no reason. Normally, nothing catches my eyes and I go about my day, but that was not the case. About 2 houses down in the street divider, there was a man. He had loose, dirty clothes on and his hair was dirty, but also looked like an electrical shock went through it. I rushed myself upstairs and took a crappy picture just because of how unusual it was. He stood there for at least 2 hours before disappearing. The hopefully side of me hoped he would never be seen again, but I knew from the crappy scary movies that was not gonna be the case. The next time I saw him, I was at my job. I worked at an ice cream stand, so we saw all types of people. It was around 9 p.m., 4 hours into my 7-hour shift, when I saw something across the street. The rush comes in waves, and we just had a rush, so I had time to look at the thing that caught my attention. In the street light was him, the same dirty man that I saw a few days prior. I had my coworker look, and she saw the same thing. We couldn't believe our eyes. We had to pull ourselves away, though as the rush started again, He was there for a long time before disappearing before closing. Then I went to dance a few days later. I had a half hour between two of my classes, so I would eat a small snack or something normally. I grabbed my money and went to the small shop that was down the street from the dance studio. As I was paying for a bag of sour gummy worms, I saw him. His face was painted on, but it looked like someone had tried to wipe it off. It smeared down his neck and it was gross. It matched the dirtiness of the rest of him. I was frozen until the cashier got mad at me, so I continued to pay and quickly got out. My heart was beating out of my chest, and in fear of him coming into the dance studio, I locked the front door. I've seen him since, showing up in places I wouldn't expect him. I always hoped he wouldn't be there, but he was. He came to my dance recital, but it's scary knowing someone is always watching you. My parents have lived in this house for nearly 40 years and swear blind that it isn't haunted. However, my sister and I have both had some peculiar experiences. One of my earliest memories is lying in bed. My bedroom faced the bathroom and seeing what looked like the silhouette of an old woman standing in the doorway of the bathroom, moving as though she was walking towards me, but never actually getting any closer. It terrifies me to this day. My current bedroom seems to be a hotbed for it. When my sister stayed in there when she was young, she would be visited by an old man in the night who would sit on the edge of her bed and talk to her. Nothing malicious. However, she told my parents and my granddad left a Bible open at Psalm 23 and the man didn't come back after that. In her 20s, she began having night terrors in that room specifically. One of these she believes may have been sleep paralysis, and she saw a girl crawling across the ceiling and then turning her head at a 180 to look at my sister, whereupon she woke up screaming. A neighbor also visited and alleged that she saw a little boy peering over the side of the bed after checking the room, as my sister had heard her radio being turned on and off and thought maybe someone had broken in. I myself have experienced several more strange occurrences. These include the strong smell of old perfume appearing randomly at the same time every year, around mid-July, I believe. It's happened 3 times that I remember, 2 of which was when I was home alone. My family were away for a weekend, and I slept in my parents' room. Woke up and went into my bedroom in the morning to find my pillows strewn over the floor. Downstairs, a painting was halfway across the room, as thought it had been thrown. There was no way it just fell. I checked all the doors and windows and they were locked. No sign of a break-in. I once heard very loud and very clear footsteps running across the hall upstairs. They sounded like a child. Just the other night my television began turning on and off repeatedly at around 3 or 4. It frightened the hell out of me because I just saw a bright light flashing on, then off for around 4 seconds, then back on, and so forth. It was only when I switched it off at the mains that it stopped. I woke up just now in the middle of the night with a throat so dry I could hardly inhale without wincing. I debated with my exhausted brain whether it was worth it to leave bed for a glass of water. I won the futile debate, but I wish I hadn't. I wish I had just closed my eyes and dozed off right back to sleep. My bedroom is at the end of a hallway that banks left into the kitchen. Normally, I can wake in the middle of the night, flip the hall light on, drag my body to the kitchen, and be back before my eyes adjust to the light. This time, though, I only reached my bedroom door when I suddenly felt wide awake. Before even lifting my hand to the doorknob, I was overcome with the deepest sense of dread I had ever felt up to this point in my life. My stomach had tied itself into a knot that only felt tighter and tighter with each second that I stood there, my hand refusing to move to the door. I realized at this point that I had been standing there with my lungs full, scared of a hallway I had entered countless times before. I exhaled, and with it came a loud laugh. What was I doing? I rationalized that I must have been having a nightmare before I woke up, and that explains why my mind is a little on edge. I laughed at myself again and reached for the doorknob. The dread hit me again, twice as hard, but I brushed it off. In 2 quick motions, I swung the door open and flicked on the hall light switch. Then I saw it. Just briefly before I slammed my door shut and dove back into my bed, I saw something. It was legs. That's it. I saw a pair of bare, human legs standing on the other side of the hallway, and they reached up all the way past the top of the frame. What the fuck? That can't be right. My ceiling isn't that tall. But that's what I saw. I want to go back and confirm, but I wanted to get this written down first, just in case. In case of what? I don't fucking know. It's been about 20 minutes now, so I am going to set my phone down and check on the hallway. I am going to feel real silly if it was just a weird shadow or something. If so, I will probably just delete all this and drown in my own embarrassment. What the fuck, guys? My hands are shaking so bad, I can barely hold my phone, but I need to write down what just happened. I saw its fucking face. At least, I think it was a face. I don't know. Fuck. The light was still on, so I just cracked the door open enough to see out. I thought I was going to throw up right there when I saw the legs still at the end of the hallway. I felt grateful at least that they had not moved closer or something. I took a deep breath and bravely scanned the legs with my eyes, hoping to find something, anything that made sense. My vision panned to the top of the hallway. It wasn't there before, but this thing had a fucking head and now it was hanging down from behind the threshold. As if I didn't know already, this thing wasn't human. Its eyes were barely eyes, just 2 tiny black dots positioned too far apart, right where eyes should be. There was no nose below that, but there was a mouth. The fucking mouth was the worst part. Its jaw was stuck open in the most unhuman way, wide enough to fit another head in and full of jagged, yellow teeth. I did not look for long, but it did not even look like there was anything inside, no tongue or throat, just blackness. Hair hung down from its scalp in patchy, white-gray mats. I forgot to mention the way it was standing. It didn't make any sense, but I'll try my best to describe it. The legs are standing straight, facing towards my door, but the head was hanging straight down, upside down but still facing me. I don't want to imagine what it must look like behind the wall. I can only picture a long body, twisted in some horrific way. I am trying to ignore this, but as I am typing, I swear I keep hearing it call my name. I can't believe such a soft, soothing voice could be coming from that creature. It feels like it's speaking directly to my psyche. I am so tired, I just want to sleep. And fuck, I am so thirsty. I still haven't gotten any water. I know that should be the last thing on my mind right now, but all I can feel is how dry my throat is. I just need water so fucking bad, it's getting more painful to breathe. And I need this fucking voice to get out of my head. Maybe that's it. Maybe it's just in my head. Maybe I can go check the hallway just one more time. Ever since my family moved into our current house, my room has always been off, always the opposite temperature from the rest of the house, things going missing and reappearing in places I'm absolutely sure I would never put them, just to name a few. When I was 15, I was up at around 11 p.m. since I just couldn't fall asleep, and I think I saw someone or something standing by my closed closet door. Now, I didn't feel scared. If anything, it was oddly comforting. As if I had nothing to worry about. I didn't say anything to my parents because, as a teenager, do you really think that they'd believe me if I said there was something going on in there? Of course not. After a few months of sporadically seeing the figure during the night, it disappeared and my room was sort of stabilizing in temperature, and I can remember explicitly that I felt so relieved in the winter when my room was actually warm and not freezing cold as it had for the past year or so. Then when I turned 17, my room's temperature went wonky again for a few days, and then I saw the figure again, still by my closet door, even after I had moved some stuff around my room. It was also 11 again, as had happened with the other times. I saw the figure, and I again felt the same peace that I'd felt the other times. However, this time it only stayed for 1 week, of which all 7 days she was there in front of my closet door. I had almost felt a little upset, thinking that maybe I had done something to bother the figure, but eventually thinking about my future career dismissed what had occurred from my mind until today. Now, I turned 18 recently, and the happenings that had occurred in the past just came back to me without reason, and I commented about this to my friend, and they noticed how weirded out and uncomfortable I was with the thought of something being in my room, and she suggested that I use the TikTok filters that witches on that app have been using to detect their deities. Or what they worship in, though. I thought it was most likely just a glitch that could occur, but there's always the chance it could actually be true. I still did it because, again, I wasn't comfortable not knowing. So I got the app and I quickly tested the filters before I started going around my room, not seeing anything in the living room or kitchen, which was kind of comforting, but I still had to go test my room. I enter my room and turn on the filter, starting to look at the furthest area of the room and seeing nothing, scanning around, and as soon as I turned the phone to the closet, the filter quickly worked, showing something moving in front of the door. I thought to myself, no, it must be the movement from the phone that made something appear to be there, so I switched filters and switched back with very little movement of the phone, and there was still something there. Now, normally, I wouldn't believe that an app meant for entertainment purposes can show something paranormal in nature, but my wallet and textbook were on my highest shelf that I never move stuff on or off and underneath my desk, respectively. So, is there a possibility that my room is haunted?